Persona 3 Portable is a game.
We.
It's an absolute revelation, I know, but it's only one version of Persona 3. The closest thing Persona 3 actually has to, say, a golden or royal version is known as Persona 3 FES, short for Festival. It's a wildly different experience compared to the portable port that we have. And I actually have FES on my old PS3. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the PS3, I'm unable to actually record gameplay of it. But I've been playing FES a little bit, and I want to talk about the differences that I've experienced so far between FES and Portable, and how that affects the quality of each game, and how that could affect you and your choice as to which version of P3 you may want to play. And honestly, I'm just going to spend most of this video talking about the introduction because I have a lot to say just on how FES and Portable handle the introduction to this story. Because the impact is so wildly different that it's almost shocking and borderline comical. So FES has fully rendered cutscenes and character animations outside of Tartarus. You manually walk along the various overworld sections, like Gekkoukan High, Polonia Mall, etc. Very similar to, say, P4, P5 in that regard. Portable itself takes on the form of a visual novel when you aren't dungeon crawling, so a lot of the cinematography and sound design utilized in FES to elicit its atmosphere feels largely lost with Portable. I also think there's something to be said about manually walking around Port Island. To me, I've only done it for a few minutes, and at this point, it's even more immersive than the cursor approach that Portable takes. I think there's just something to be said about actually having to walk around and maneuver these varying locations that just gives it a sense of personality to it. But I really want to talk about the introduction, like I said, because in my opinion, the introduction of FES is one of my favorite starts to any game ever. And I want to go through it piece by piece here. And in the background, I'm going to be having the introduction for the female protagonist from Portable playing in the background, so you can kind of follow along and just see the difference between what I'm saying happens in FES and what you are shown in Portable. So the introduction is heavily atmospheric, utilizing quick cuts one after the other on top of brilliant use of sound design to raise the tension as we cut back and forth between the main character Makoto, who's making his way through the city streets, and Yukari, crawled up beneath a cupboard with a gun, struggling desperately to turn it against her own forehead and pull the trigger. We hear her hyperventilate as we cut back and forth between perspectives, and it really succeeds at showing the player that this will be a dark story filled to the brim with heavy and depressing themes. It's definitely shock value, but when you use shock value correctly, especially in an introduction, it can be an easy bridge to make the player care about this world that they're probably going to have to spend around 100 hours in to play the full thing. And to me, that's what the Yukari scene really is. It's a great hook, because without the knowledge of it being an invoker that's used to summon Persona, the player is immediately introduced to the theme of death that emits from every corner of this game. And when you watch it again, the entire scene is recontextualized for you, adding additional value and depth to it. Persona 3 is not a bright, cheery game. It has a story to tell, and it's going to tell it exactly how it wants to, no matter how macabre it may be. And one of the little details about the introduction I really appreciate was the fact that Makoto has headphones that are iconic to his image, and when he turns on his own music, the music for the game summarily turns on, aiding the player in being immersed into the role of Makoto Yuki, as Burn My Dread begins to play throughout this introduction, at varying levels of volume. So we can tell immediately that something is off, because this introduction has a brilliant use of sound balance and design in general. Because the game periodically utilizes this loud, static sound, kind of like from an old television when you turn the channel, and it uses this during the jump cuts. And all these little sound design and cuts aid in rapidly upping the tension and foreshadowing to the player that something terrible is about to happen. I feel like a lot of people just really prefer symmetry, and when something deviates from that symmetry or from that established pattern, it can raise the tension and a sense of uneasiness, and that's what this introduction does, because these jump cuts are sporadic. They may happen half a second later, they could happen in 3 seconds, maybe 5 seconds. It changes the pace of each of these jump cuts. You can't tell what it's about to do. And it creates this brilliant sense of uneasiness and just overall tension. The dark hour approaches and the music cuts off, as the only things we can hear from this point on are Makoto's footsteps and sighs, alongside this reverberating white noise sound that's rumbling, almost like thunder in a way. It's oddly haunting. And a green moon rises and coffins line the city streets, with Makoto being the lone person remaining. At this point, the player just has so many questions, they don't even know which question to ask first. And the mysteries of this world begin to reveal themselves to us. He enters the dormitory and is immediately confronted by some kid in what appears to be an old prison uniform, talking about a contract. You pick your name for the game, and you're confronted by Yukari, the girl we saw earlier, with the gun to her head, and she is clearly suspicious and anxious. She's breathing heavily, and you can tell this is just clearly not a calm scene right now. And heck, she nearly pulls out the evoker. And again, if you don't know that's an evoker, you're wondering if she's going to aim it at you. But if you've already played the intro and you know it's an evoker, you know she's probably debating if you're a shadow or not, because this is the dark hour, and if she needs to summon her persona. This introduction uses brilliant uses of subtlety, but also the opposite of subtlety. It'll be very in your face when it needs to be, but it can be also very subtle when it needs to be as well. And it weaves both of these ideas together to create this cohesive whole that creates this just overall narrative. Portable's introduction isn't bad in comparison, but to me it lacks the sense of tension and immersion that the fully rendered cutscene brought to the table. And for an introduction, that level of immersion is so important at setting the pace and tone of the game. Portable just uses still images from the cinematic as it tells the events of what happened, without the accoutrement that made it so special to begin with. It's serviceable, sure, and it still works, but I do wish Portable at least had the cutscenes. So for me in the introduction department, I'm definitely giving this one to FES. However, we start to get into a funny little predicament here. For me, I tend to prefer FES for a lot of the reasons I just talked about, for the story cutscenes and moments like that. Just because I value that cinematography and that audio design that I just don't really get out of Portable. However, the opposite is true when we get into the actual gameplay loop of exploring Tartarus. Now, I haven't gone too far into FES yet, so I'm going to hold off on fully comparing the two and saying which one I actually completely like, because I just don't know yet, but I do have some early impressions. So a full video will come at some point once I've played more FES, but I will say, off rip, I do prefer having full control of my party. However, I think fusion abilities are a very cool concept. In FES, the way you get this ability called Cadenza, it's a party-wide 50% HP heal on top of an evasion boost. You get this as what it's called a fusion ability. And essentially, a fusion ability is this extra ability you get by having two specific persona in your party. I had Orpheus and Apsaris in my party, so their fusion ability is Cadenza. However, in Portable, Cadenza is an item that you can craft at the antique store. Now, only Makoto could use this, so that's the same in both games, but it being a resource, a consumable in Portable versus an actual ability that costs MP in FES is an interesting difference to me. Now, I can't really say which version I prefer in this regard. However, it's something I noticed that's piquing my curiosity. I do really like the idea of fusion abilities, but I need to see how far they really go with them. Now, you may be able to get Cadenza as an item in FES as well, but like I said, I'm still very early in that regard. However, I think there's something to be said on a macro level about managing a party's level of tiredness, and how going down to the Tartarus lobby to save is now a resource. There's something to be said in that regard. There are definitely some people who are going to view that as an added sense to their immersion, and I completely understand why. And maybe later on, when we get more party members, there'll be less of an issue for me, as you can just sub others in and get them some XP as well, and just keep going. But I'm never a fan of saving being a resource in any game I've ever played. Sometimes I just need to log off suddenly, and it sucks I'm being punished for needing to do so. But it does kind of give Tartarus this extra level of intimidation, like you're not welcome here, and you're delving deeper and deeper into it. And that these party members aren't just a bunch of stat sticks there to do various JRPG abilities. They are people and they can get tired. There's something to be said about that. I'm just not convinced that the trade-off between the convenience of just being able to play at my own pace is worth it. And I hear that later on, it takes more and more battles for a character to get tired, which is cool, but very early on, when I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go into a big Tartarus session. Oh, wait, 2 floors in. Oh, wait, no, I'm on floor 4 already, and now they're both tired, so I'm kind of screwed here if I lose too much SP or HP. Now, they only leave once you actually return to the lobby, so it just becomes a battle of attrition at that point, making sure you have enough resources in your inventory to top off your party so you don't have to go back down to the lobby, and that you also don't need to go back to the lobby to actually save the game, so there's a bit of a trade-off there. Now, if I could just save in Tartarus and not have to go back to the lobby, I think that'd be way more palatable for me personally. Because I don't mind the War of Attrition style gameplay to it. I feel that has some value to it, some value that I do appreciate. But it's the saving one that really gets me. Like, I just prefer Portable in that regard. So far, at least. Because I don't think what FES offers as positives for its combat loop overcome the conveniences that I get with Portable. Portable feels way more akin to, say, Persona 4 Golden in terms of combat. And I really enjoyed P4 Golden's gameplay. If FES has the randomized Tartarus floor effects like Portable does, where each floor has this random chance to just be something of some kind of different layout, like this floor may be only wealth hands, or it might just be completely chests, or enemies may be a little bit stronger, etc., etc. I kind of like that level of randomness. Kind of gives Tartarus this kind of roguelike-esque feeling, very lightly so, but it's nice to vary up the flow. So far, I'd probably say actually exploring Tartarus outside of the save mechanic being tied, two characters being tied. So if they're tied, I can't really save unless I want them to leave me. I would say the actual act of exploring Tartarus so far is fun in both versions. I would say I prefer Portable's combat and FES's story so far. So I'm going to call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment down below with your thoughts and your opinions on P3 FES or P3 Portable. Which one do you prefer? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe out there, everybody. Have a great day. Go play some video games, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.